This type of health class prevents students from receiving the benefits of comprehensive sex ed, and it abuses the separation of church and state. Abstinence-only sex ed comes from federal funding being poured into religious belief-based education. Hey guys, I'm Kat Law. Welcome to my 10th episode. Today's episode is an overview of health class in the United States, which I'll be referring to as sex ed for a lot of this video, and how conservative movements and religious moralism damages this class and public health as a whole. If you're new here, please make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, as I am releasing content just about daily. So this episode is partially inspired by another YouTuber, Telltale Atheist, and a situation he posted about regarding his daughter's health class at her middle school, in which the teacher made a bunch of statements that were obviously very religiously charged when she was supposed to be talking about sex ed. This whole situation, including a recording of what the teacher was saying, really exemplifies the wrong info and harmful teaching of sex ed that many of us in the United States had to deal with. To be clear about any biases, I am a fan of Telltale Atheist, and I am an atheist myself, so this will be one of my more religion-critical episodes. I wasn't asked to make this video. I have personally never interacted with this YouTuber apart from him liking some of my replies to his videos or tweets or something. I just saw this on social media the other night, and it was just something I really want to talk about more. So as I said, there's a recording. We know about this because Telltale's daughter was smart and quick thinking enough to record her teacher's statements. I'm including certain clips of this recording in the video, and we'll be tacking on the entire recording at the end of the video for if you want to listen through and make your own decisions on this situation. I will also be linking an article from the Freedom from Religion Foundation in the description regarding the legal proceeding side of the situation now. As a disclaimer, I am not a medical doctor or a public health expert. I am a public health communicator, which is a type of science communicator that discusses the social issues and philosophy surrounding public health in addition to the medical science. The introduction of political and religious ideologies into public school health classes is a concern of public health, as these health classes, sex ed and all that, is the only form of public health education that the general population gets in the U.S. Also in this video, I'm not going to be covering how egregious this is a violation of the separation of church and state when it is a public school discussing religious moralism as fact, when a health class should be based in science and the research that we have, because we have done so much research and we know how to teach health right. Additionally, education, including health education, is linked to improving socioeconomic status. As I've mentioned on my channel before, and as anyone who studies public health knows, low socioeconomic status is linked to poor health outcomes and poor population health. When done correctly, proper comprehensive sex ed will reduce teen pregnancy rates, reduces STDs, improves lifelong relationship skills, and reduces the risk of sexual abuse and assault. Poorly taught sex ed tends to do the opposite. Widespread comprehensive sex ed is vital to improving public health. Introducing harmful attitudes, especially those we see in abstinence-only sex ed, which is stemming from religion-derived purity culture, is directly harmful to public health. Additionally, as a product of the American public school system, I was also very affected by poorly done sex ed. In the years since I have finished school, California has passed legislation introducing comprehensive sex ed to public school health classes. However, in the years before this legislation, even though I lived in what appeared to be a progressive area, it was very conservatively taught, including plenty of abstinence only and, frankly, incorrect information I could go on and on about how bad the health class I had in high school was and how bad the sex ed I had over the years was, from elementary school, like 5th grade, until like high school health class. But I decided to just narrow it down to 3 points for exactly why I'm so concerned with appropriate comprehensive sex ed. First off, I had to turn to the internet for a lot of my sex ed because I had questions and no one really to answer them. And it was also like, I had a feeling of like the information I was being given in school was not right. And I wanted to check it. And like, I was lucky enough to find websites that are arguably good, such as Scarlet Teen, which is a website I'll be linking below. I could have gotten very bad information. Secondly, I was on hormonal birth control pills from about 13 years old to manage some period symptoms. I knew exactly why I took them, and I trust my doctor. But when you're in school as an insecure teenager, having thinly veiled discussions that basically told me I was sinful and wrong for taking these pills, there was some definite damage to my self-esteem. Like I internalized a lot of the beliefs of like, oh, you're a whore, you're kind of damaged goods, and I wasn't even sexually active. That was just how harmful purity culture and how pervasive those beliefs were as they were discussed in school. Thirdly, one of the first experiences I had with activism and advocacy was working as a student media contact for GLSEN, the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network. This organization's goal is to improve the LGBTQ plus student experience, which includes positive and inclusive education about sexual orientation and gender identity, which is included in comprehensive sex ed and is very distinctly excluded from abstinence-only sex ed, as abstinence-only sex ed ends up being just don't have sex. You'll die.
Don't have sex, because you will get pregnant and die.
So, onto the state of health class in the U.S. Comprehensive sex ed is still a far-off goal for most of the country, but when it eventually happens, it will include lessons on human development, relationships, personal skills, society and culture, sexual behaviors, and sexual health in age-appropriate lessons for kindergarten through 12th grade. Comprehensive sex ed in schools is linked to delayed initiation of sexual activity, reduced number of sexual partners, and increased contraception usage. Since the early 2000s, hundreds of millions of dollars from federal agencies have been poured into abstinence-only programs. These programs even contained scientific and medical inaccuracies. The funding of abstinence-only sex ed only really happened due to the strength and influence from religious opposition to public health measures. Certain religious groups will claim that actually informational sex ed promotes supposedly immoral behavior, despite studies showing that people are more responsible and safe when actually educated. A huge issue with the delivery of health class and sex ed is when the teacher's own belief system comes into play, as we see in this situation involving Telltale Atheist, which I'll be reviewing a selected couple of audio clips here.
And that it's not okay to be sexually active. If you look at the Bible, it says, sex isn't for love, it is for what? When is the time you should?
After marriage.
After marriage.
While abstinence-only practice may be the best way to prevent STDs, as in we're talking about only being with one person and being monogamous your entire life, it's not realistic. It's like saying we should lock our doors and weld them shut and not go outside at all until the COVID-19 pandemic is over. Like, I'm one of the safest people you'll meet regarding pandemic guidelines, and obviously I think that's ridiculous. We have preventive measures. We have different levels of protection. We have the ability to assess our safety levels and reduce contact in case there is a risk of disease. Same situation between both STDs and COVID-19. I may or may not call condoms dick masks sometimes. Just saying. Also, Not everyone is Christian. Not every Christian is of the same denomination. It's egregious to use the Bible as your cited source when you're teaching a health class, where what you are discussing should be based in science, in fact, in proven peer-reviewed research. The information you should be delivering to your students needs to be precise and accurate.
They say all you do is you everything you're teaching about sexual transmitted disease stuff, you keep referring back to the Bible.
As I said, this teacher should not be teaching about health science, STDs we're talking about here, with the Bible as her cited source. I don't need to repeat myself on that.
And they don't care whatever they do, however way they want to dress, whatever way they want to act. If they want to be with a boy or a girl, that's their choice, and that's fine.
Gender identity and sexual orientation are not choices. They are not up for debate or argument. Sexuality as a choice is a false statement without scientific support.
When your hormones start being released, you're going to start having a little bit of sexual feelings or thoughts. That's normal. Everybody does that.
Bad news. The worst person you know made a good point. This is the closest we get to information that is appropriate for a health class in this whole discussion she has. This part of the discussion continues to the end of the audio clip and is interspersed with religious references. Yes, sexual urges and feelings that are associated with puberty should be addressed in sex ed and is addressed in comprehensive sex ed programs. However, this teacher acts as though abstinence and a belief in God is all you should need, all you should do to deal with this. As I said earlier, I will be including this entire audio clip at the end of this video for those who want to listen to it in full and haven't yet. Also, for those who want more information about this situation, a link to Telltale Atheist YouTube channel and the video where he discusses this whole situation will be linked in the description below. Ultimately, when kids don't have a place for their questions to be answered without judgment and with good information, they search for it elsewhere. That elsewhere could be online, on YouTube, on social media, and they are all rife with misinformation and disinformation that can reinforce the harmful messaging they received at school. It's harmful to public health and religious liberties to see health classes in public school settings bogged down with Christian moralism about sex and adolescent development. This type of health class prevents students from receiving the benefits of comprehensive sex ed, and it abuses the separation of church and state. Abstinence-only sex ed comes from federal funding being poured into religious belief-based education. I'm not saying that practicing abstinence is wrong and that someone is wrong for choosing to wait until marriage. I'm saying that it shouldn't be taught as the only option, because we have research that shows exactly how harmful abstinence-only sex ed is. The politicization of public health, which is arguably an apolitical entity, is extremely harmful. I mean, I don't really need to say that today in 2021 because of the pandemic. Even before 2020, we saw this politicization leaking into other parts of public health. And public school health classes were one of the most affected. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and check out my other social medias. I'm on Twitter and Stereo right now. Now that I am done with classes for this quarter, I might do more. Good luck to anyone still dealing with finals or deadlines, or not on the quarter system so you don't get a break right now. And, yeah. Until next time. Stay safe, wear a mask, maybe correct some of the incorrect things you learned in your public school's abstinence-only sex ed in the links below, and I'll see you later. Another Mean Girls clip inserted here.
When you get in 7th grade, we go a tad bit further. And then when you get in 8th grade, we start studying how dangerous sexual thinking and behavior, what it can do to you. Okay? And the one thing is, I'm hoping that you all are brought up by a good family or person, whoever's raising you, that they're teaching you right from wrong, and that it's not okay to be sexually active. If you look at the Bible, it says, sex isn't for love, it is for what? When is the time you should?
After marriage.
After marriage. I have got so many kids that were so against me in my first and second period, you would have a heart attack. It makes me sick how they believe. And I'm thinking, the upbringing that you guys are having from your parents, I'm not saying nothing bad about your parents, it's just different nowadays. And I hate it. They say, all you do is, you everything you're teaching about sexual transmitted disease stuff, you keep referring back to the Bible. And I said, I almost said because I'm right, but, you can't force somebody to believe in God. And that's fine, whether you do or not, that's your opinion, but I just can't get my head into there where people don't really think there's I don't know, I'm just kind of shocked. They'll know one day, won't they? That's what worries me. I don't want anybody to be lost. So I try to squeeze them in a little bit without getting in too much trouble. But there's so many kids that don't believe in God and they don't believe in values. And they don't care whatever they do, however way they want to dress, whatever way they want to act. If they want to be with a boy or a girl, that's their choice. And that's fine. I'm not arguing. I'm just saying I don't believe in that. And it's just a fight battle. I'm trying to teach you guys, when you learn about the body, you need to understand that when your hormones start being released, you're going to start having a little bit of sexual feelings or thoughts. That's normal. Everybody does that. The thing is, you have to learn to control those hormones. Because when they start getting released, yeah, you're going to start thinking differently. That's just normal action. That's what happens. Okay? And it's going to happen between 9 and 18 or 19 years old. You're going to start thinking that way. Okay? There's nothing wrong with it. The thing is you've got to choose what are you going to do about those feelings and thoughts. And if you're brought up with morals and values, then God's going to be there to help you make better decisions. You're going to mess up, right? We all mess up all the time. Okay? I'm just trying to tell you to be very careful, because when the hormones start being released, it's like they're uncontrollable. But you guys are the ones that you've got to get a grip on those hormones, because they will ruin your life if you don't.